Peter Parker is officially making up for lost time with his brand new powers, but he's not the only one taking to the streets of New York in a costume. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 2 and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so picking up after the events of the previous issue, Peter Parker had become aware of everything the Maker had taken from him. How in another world he was meant to be a hero, and how for the last 20 years things have gone very differently. Ever since he's been bitten by the spider, though, things have been changing very quickly. He's faster, stronger, more resilient, and every night he goes out to try and test the limits of his power. Complete with one very black costume, Peter has already gotten the hang of web swinging. Unfortunately, he hasn't so much gotten the hang of web stopping, and no, they haven't 100% explained yet if these new webs are organic, or if maybe the Maker left plans for the classic web shooter somewhere next to the spider. Peter's nighttime exploits have also made the news too, as the Bugle is printing stories about a mysterious masked individual swinging above the streets of New York, and wouldn't you know it, the Parker home is actually split down the middle about how they feel. Pete's son Richard thinks the whole thing is some sort of media hoax made possible with CGI, maybe even Photoshop, while his daughter, May, thinks the man is very real and very scary. MJ's indifferent though, she's far too busy, though she does feel that Peter's looking really good recently, almost like he's been working out or something. In a clever bit of writing too, Peter isn't exactly 100% sure what he should be doing as Spider-Man. Hell, he hasn't even settled on the name yet. He knows that he had 20 years stolen from him by outside forces, but what do you do in that situation? Do you try and relive those years? I mean, that would be ridiculous, right? You'd fall behind the curve and never make it back. The only way forward is to keep moving and find a new mission statement for Spider-Man in this crazy new world. We also get a chance to check back on in with Ben and Jonah this issue. They're still licking their wounds after being fired from the Bugle at the end of the last issue, but they've been keeping their ears to the ground and they've learned some rather juicy gossip coming out of the paper. You'll remember that they were ousted by Wilson Fisk, only for Wilson Fisk to almost die in an attack perpetrated by a strange flying goblin-themed vigilante. Wilson walked away from that, but here's the thing. The Goblin has actually tried to kill him again at least 2 more times, but the paper hasn't reported on it at all, instead deciding to double down on coverage of Not Quite Spider-Man. Now, why on earth would they go and do a thing like that unless they had an invested interest in trying to keep all of this quiet? Well, geez, it almost sounds like there's a story at the center of this for 2 old news dogs to try and hunt down. And they'll do it too once they end up finding a name for their new company, and hey, they should also probably hire Peter away from the Bugle. After all, he took such good pictures of Not Quite Spider-Man. Now, the next night when Peter ends up going on patrol, his routine is interrupted when he sees another costumed individual attempting to break into a bank. This guy has advanced shock gauntlets, and much like Pete himself, a costume that isn't 100% there yet. And oh, isn't it fun to see Peter fighting the Shocker, knowing that he was one of the earliest villains back in the other Ultimate series as well. Now, how does Proto Spider-Man choose to deal with Proto Shocker? Well, that's kind of the best part. He doesn't swoop right on in and punch him because, well, that's not how adults deal with their problems. Peter knows he's supposed to do something in this situation, but he's not exactly 100% sure what that means, so instead he opts to try and talk Shocker down first. And for a second there, it almost feels like this tactic is gonna work, with Shocker saying, you know what, you got me, I'm just so conflicted and desperate, I didn't really want to go through with this, thanks for stopping me, buddy, only to attack him anyway. Oh, oy vey, losing your first fight via superpowered sucker punch, that has gotta be rough. Pete returns home that night to try and go over what went wrong, and drown his sorrows in a little ice cream, only to be horrified when he realizes that his daughter has been standing there watching him the whole time. Oops, this is why it's so hard to keep secrets from kids, everybody. Pete flies into full-on father mode, saying that May doesn't need to be scared of him or the Man in Black at all because, well, they're the same person and that he would never hurt her. His daughter is actually shockingly receptive too to learning that her father got amazing powers from a spider, or as she puts it, a magic spider, and I mean, in many ways it kind of is. Pete says that he always planned to tell his family and that he will tell MJ and Richard, but maybe not till a little later, and he hopes that May will keep his secret, and she does when offered a little ice cream. She even offers to help her dad rework his costume because, let's face it, all black is kinda crappy. It's from there we transition on over to Wilson Fisk, who is currently getting reamed out right now by his boss, Henry Duggery, who you may or may not remember was part of the Maker's evil cabal, as well as being this universe's very French Captain Britain. Like all the other members of the Maker's cabal, with their old master gone, they're going out of their way to try and expand expand their territory. Duggery is doing this in a fittingly very feudal European way by letting other people like Fisk run their own small fiefdoms in exchange for kicking up tribute to their lord. Though it's clear these two are already butting heads over the proper way to actually deal with the man in the black mask. Fisk wants to try and use him as a smokescreen from all the other evil deeds being done at the Bugle, while Duggery just wants the whole thing shut up and quick. Now, when Peter goes out again, he makes plans to try and settle the score with this brand new Shocker, who, you guessed it, is once again trying to break into another bank. Proto Shocker once again tries to spin Proto Spider-Man a tear-jerking yarn about having to steal money for a sick wife, but Pete's not dumb and doesn't fall for this a second time. This time, the two men actually end up throwing hands at one another, and while Spider-Man does manage to get a couple good shots in, he's unfortunately not a fighter, and he doesn't have 20 years of experience backing him up. Meaning that for the second time in a row, Spider-Man actually loses a fight to his first supervillain. Ugh, that's harsh, and just to really rub some salt into the wound. We can see on another rooftop that this fight is actually being watched by that new mysterious Green Goblin. I guess that means Peter hasn't mastered spider sense either yet to know when he's actively being watched. It's not all bad though, as Peter once again returns home black and blue. He sees that May has gone out of her way to try and lift her father's spirits with a cute drawing. It's a spider with the classic red and blue design, which of course gives Peter an idea to upgrade his costume. And so that was Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 2, everybody, and I'm happy to say that the greatness of the first issue was not a fluke. Hickman keeps that train right on rolling into another solid issue that asks a lot of very heady and exciting questions about what it means to become a superhero late in life. And the answer is, it's not easy. Throwing yourself into danger, throwing punches with dangerous people, well, you know, that's a lot better suited for young people who feel invincible, not older people who know exactly what they have to lose. In the last video too, I talked about this theme beginning to form across all the new Ultimate books, this idea that our favorite superheroes in this universe kind of have arrested development and failures to launch. Peter's still working basically his same job at the paper he had as a kid with no chance to advance. T'Challa is king, but really only ceremonially, as his father was still alive, and we see this actually extend to the villains too. Wilson Fisk is kind of the kingpin, but he's not really the kingpin. He has bosses. He's also yet to truly become everything he was meant to be in this universe manipulated by the Maker, and it's kind of cool to see all these people struggling and stumbling, but eventually, ultimately all heading in the same direction. It's nice too to know that they're not drawing out when Peter is ultimately going to reveal his secret identity to his family. He always planned to, the daughter just kind of beat him to the punch, and now the daughter gets to help. It's cool because May basically gets to be the sense of childlike wonder that Peter doesn't have as much of because he is an adult who's been beaten down by the world, and I think it's great that she ultimately ends up coming up with the idea for the Spider-Man colors and Spider logo. In fact, wouldn't it be cool to see other members of the Spider-Man family actually offer up ideas to Peter to help him become more fully formed? I think thematically that would fit really well. Overall, I'd give this one a very strong 8.5 out of 10. It's good stuff. I'm loving the direction, I'm loving the artwork from Checchetto, and I cannot wait for issue 3. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.